What if I told you that the most important conversation of your life isn't with your boss, your family, or your friends, but with yourself? Yes, the voice in your head has the power to either break you or transform you. And here's the shocking truth. If you change the way you talk to yourself for just 3 days, you will feel a shift so powerful it could change the course of your life forever. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you're going to discover how your own words can become your greatest source of strength, the power of inner dialogue. Every day of your life, there is a voice that never leaves you. It speaks in the quiet moments before you fall asleep. It whispers in the morning when you open your eyes, and it echoes in your mind throughout the day. That voice is your own. And whether you realize it or not, the way you talk to yourself is shaping the way you live. Think about it for a moment. If a friend constantly told you, "You are not good enough, you will fail, you are weak," how long would you want to be around that friend? Not long. Yet many of us speak to ourselves in exactly that way, day after day, year after year. We have become our own harshest critics. And when you constantly repeat negative words to yourself, your mind begins to believe them. Those words become your reality. But here's the truth. Your inner dialogue is the most powerful tool you have for transformation. The words you tell yourself are not just empty sentences floating in your head. They are commands that your subconscious mind obeys. Science has shown that your brain is constantly rewiring itself, adapting to the messages it receives. When you speak words of weakness, your brain looks for evidence to support that weakness. But when you speak words of strength, your brain begins to reprogram itself, opening the door for new possibilities, new energy, and new results. This is why talking to yourself is not madness, it is mastery. Champions, leaders, spiritual seekers, all of them know this secret. They guard their inner dialogue like treasure because they know that thoughts are seeds. And whatever seeds you plant in the mind, the garden of your life will produce. If you sow doubt, you will reap fear. But if you sow confidence, love, and faith, you will reap courage, peace, and purpose. The way you talk to yourself also sets the tone for how you interact with the world. When your inner voice says, "I am enough, I am guided, I am resilient," you walk into situations differently. You radiate a quiet strength that others can feel. You no longer shrink in the face of challenges because deep within you, a voice is reminding you of your worth and your power. For just 3 days, if you begin to shift your inner dialogue, you will notice the difference. Start small. In the mirror, instead of pointing out flaws, remind yourself, "I am alive, I am blessed, I am capable." In moments of fear, whisper, "I am safe, I am supported, I am strong." When you stumble, say, "This is not my end, this is my lesson." Your mind listens, your body listens, your soul listens. The truth is simple. The most important conversation you will ever have is the one you have with yourself. Make it a conversation of faith, not fear. Make it a conversation of strength, not weakness. Talk to yourself like you would to someone you love, because your words are shaping your destiny every single day, breaking the cycle of negativity. For many of us, the cycle of negative self-talk has been running for years, so long that we don't even notice it anymore. It begins quietly, often in childhood, when someone told us we weren't good enough, smart enough, or strong enough. Those words may have been spoken only once, but they echoed inside, becoming part of our inner script. Over time, without realizing it, we began repeating those same words to ourselves. "I can't do this. I'm not worthy. I'll never be successful. I'm too old. I'm too late." These sentences may feel small, but repeated day after day, they create heavy chains that bind the soul. This is how the cycle of negativity works. One negative thought sparks another. That thought becomes a belief. That belief shapes your actions, and your actions shape your life. A single sentence repeated enough times becomes a prison of the mind. And the saddest part is that most people live inside this prison their entire lives, never realizing the door has been open all along. But here is the truth you must remember. You are not your thoughts. You are not the lies that fear whispers, and you are not the labels that others placed upon you. You are far greater. The power to change your life begins with changing the words you speak to yourself. Imagine for a moment that you took 3 days to speak differently to yourself. Just 3 days where, instead of repeating the same old negative phrases, you replace them with affirmations of truth. Instead of saying, "I'm too old," you say, "I am wise, and I carry the strength of experience." Instead of saying, "I'm not enough," you say, "I am complete, I am worthy, I am more than enough." Instead of saying, "I can't do this," you whisper, "I can, because I am guided, because I am supported, because my Creator does not make mistakes." At first, your mind might resist. It will say, "This isn't true. You failed before. You can't change." But understand this, that resistance is simply the echo of the old cycle trying to survive. The mind clings to familiar patterns, even if they hurt us. But if you persist for just 3 days, you will begin to feel a shift. Negativity loses its power when you stop feeding it, and you stop feeding it by refusing to repeat it. Words are energy, and energy shapes reality. When you choose to speak strength instead of weakness, hope instead of despair, faith instead of fear, you break the cycle. And once the cycle is broken, even slightly, even for a few days, a new pattern begins to form. Your mind starts looking for evidence of your worth instead of your flaws. Your body begins to carry less tension. Your soul begins to rise, free from the weight of old lies. 3 days may seem small, but it's not. It is the seed of transformation. And once planted, that seed can grow into a new way of living, a way where negativity no longer commands your life, because you've chosen a higher voice within you, reprogramming the mind with spirit. Your mind is like a fertile field, always ready to grow whatever seeds you plant within it. The problem is that most people unknowingly plant weeds, doubts, fears, and limitations, and then wonder why their lives feel overrun by negativity. But when you cross into awareness, when you awaken spiritually, you begin to see that you are the gardener of your own inner world. And the way to reprogram the mind is simple: plant different seeds. For just 3 days, imagine speaking to yourself, not as a critic but as a guide, not with judgment but with compassion. Instead of saying, "I am broken," you affirm, "I am healing, I am growing, I am whole." Instead of saying, "I am weak," you remind yourself, "I carry the strength of my Creator within me." These are not empty words, they are spiritual truths. And when spoken with faith, they begin to reshape the very fabric of your thoughts. Science calls this process neuroplasticity. Spirit calls it renewal. Every time you replace a negative thought with a positive affirmation, you are rewiring the pathways of your brain. You are teaching your mind to stop defaulting to fear and to start flowing with faith. This is why affirmations are so powerful, not because the words themselves are magic, but because your belief energizes them and your repetition engraves them into your subconscious. But this is more than psychology. It is spiritual alignment. You are not just a body moving through the world. You are a soul connected to a higher power. When you affirm, "I am guided, I am loved, I am protected," you are not just calming yourself. You are aligning with the truth of your existence. You are remembering that you are never alone, that the divine breathes within you, and that your spirit has no limits. Think of your mind as a radio. For years, it has been tuned to the wrong frequency, a station of fear, doubt, beat, and self-criticism. But with conscious practice, you can turn the dial. You can choose to tune into a higher frequency, the frequency of peace, hope, gratitude, and love. That's what reprogramming the mind really is, choosing a new channel and refusing to go back to the static of negativity. When you talk to yourself like this for even 3 days, you will notice the difference. your prayers will feel deeper. Your energy will feel lighter. Your interactions with others will shift, because the energy you carry inside reflects outward. You will see opportunities where before you saw only obstacles. You will feel courage where once there was only hesitation. Remember, your words are seeds, and your spirit is the soil. Plant faith, and you will harvest courage. Plant love, and you will harvest joy. Plant gratitude, and you will harvest abundance. The choice is always yours. So speak to yourself with the language of the soul, not the language of fear, but the language of truth. And when you do, you won't just reprogram your mind. You will awaken your spirit to a higher way of living. The shift you will feel when you begin to talk to yourself differently, even for just 3 days, something extraordinary happens. You start to feel the shift. At first, it may be subtle, almost unnoticeable, like a faint breeze before the storm. But soon, it grows stronger, and you realize that the very atmosphere of your life is changing. The first shift happens inside your body. Words are not just sound. They are energy. When you constantly speak words of worry, your body carries that tension. You feel it in your shoulders, in your heartbeat, in your restless sleep. But when you replace those words with calming affirmations, I am safe, I am strong, I am at peace, your body begins to release its grip on fear. Your breathing slows, your heart beats steadier. The tension you've been carrying for years starts to melt away. It feels as if your cells are listening, because in truth, they are. The second shift happens in your mind. For so long, your thoughts may have circled like vultures, replaying old mistakes, fears of the future, and doubts about your worth. But when you feed your mind new words, a new pattern begins to emerge. You stop obsessing over what went wrong and start imagining what can go right. You no longer replay the same sad movie in your head. You begin writing a new story. The inner critic softens, and the inner coach rises. And with that shift, clarity emerges. The third shift happens in your emotions. Old wounds that used to sting begin to lose their power. Instead of spiraling into anger, guilt, or sadness, you notice yourself leaning more into forgiveness, acceptance, and hope. When your inner dialogue changes, your emotional state follows. Suddenly, what used to weigh you down no longer feels as heavy. You discover that your heart can in fact feel light again. The fourth shift happens in your spirit. You begin to feel more connected to yourself too, others, and to the divine. Your prayers feel deeper, your meditations clearer, and your sense of presence sharper. You no longer feel like a victim of life's circumstances. You begin to feel like a co-creator of your reality. The voice inside that once dragged you down now lifts you higher, whispering truths you had forgotten. You are loved, you are guided, you are more powerful than you know. And then comes the final shift, the way you show up in the world. People around you notice something different. They sense the calmness in your presence, the confidence in your words, the strength in your silence. The energy you project outward is simply a reflection of the shift within. Opportunities seem to open, not because the world has suddenly changed, but because you have changed the way you see it. All of this, these powerful shifts, can begin in as little as 3 days of speaking differently to yourself. That is how powerful your inner dialogue is. Change the way you speak, and you change the way you feel. Change the way you feel, and you change the way you live. This is not magic. It is alignment. It is awakening. And the shift you will feel is the proof that your words hold the power to transform your life from the inside out. A new way of living. After 3 days of speaking differently to yourself, you will not only feel the shift, you will realize that you've opened the door to an entirely new way of living. What begins as a simple practice of changing your words becomes the foundation of a transformed life. Because once you've experienced the power of your inner dialogue, you can never go back to the old patterns of doubt, fear, and self-criticism. You will see too clearly that the voice inside you is not just commentary, it is creation. When you talk to yourself with love, patience, and strength, life itself responds. You walk with more confidence, not because everything around you is perfect, but because your inner world has changed. You see challenges differently, not as obstacles meant to crush you, but as opportunities meant to grow you. You treat yourself with the same kindness you've always given to others, and in doing so, you finally learn what it means to truly love yourself. This new way of living also changes how you show up for others. When your inner voice is nurturing, you naturally extend that energy outward. You become more compassionate, more patient, and more forgiving. You realize that the way you speak to yourself is the way you'll eventually speak to the world. And when your inner dialogue is filled with faith and light, your presence becomes a source of encouragement for those around you. But perhaps the greatest gift of this new way of living is freedom. For years, maybe even decades, your inner critic has been holding you hostage, telling you that you are not enough, that you've failed too many times, that it's too late to change. But when you begin to speak differently, you break those chains. You realize that your past does not define you. Your mistakes are not your identity. And your age, your circumstances, your fears, none of them are stronger than the truth you carry within. The new way of living is also a spiritual awakening. You begin to see that you are not just a mind with thoughts or a body with needs. You are a soul with divine potential. When you affirm, "I am guided, I am supported, I am loved," you are not simply motivating yourself. You are aligning with a higher reality. You are remembering that you were never meant to walk this journey alone. And that realization fills your life with a sense of peace, faith, and purpose that no outside circumstance can take away. So if 3 days of new words can bring this much change, imagine what 3 weeks could do. Imagine what 3 months or 3 years of consistent conscious self-talk could create. The life you dream of is not built by chance. It is built by the daily conversations you have with yourself. This is your invitation. Step into this new way of living. Make your inner voice your greatest ally. Let it lift you, guide you, and remind you every day of your strength, your worth, and your limitless potential. Talk to yourself like this, not just for 3 days, but for the rest of your life, and you will discover a truth unshakable. The voice within you is the key to the life you were always meant to live. As we close this journey together, I want you to pause for a moment and reflect on what you've just heard. Think about how often you've spoken harshly to yourself, how many years you've carried words of doubt, criticism, and fear in your own mind. That inner dialogue has shaped the way you've seen yourself, the way you've acted, and the life you've created. But here's the beautiful truth: you hold the power to change it. And you don't need years to do it. You can start right now. Talking to yourself with love, strength, and faith for just 3 days may sound simple, but it is life-altering. Because your words are not random, they are seeds. Every sentence you speak to yourself is a seed planted into the soil of your mind. For years, many of us have unknowingly planted weeds, and those weeds have grown into limitations, fears, and regrets. But when you change your words, you change your seeds. And when you change your seeds, you change your harvest. After only 3 days of affirmations, of speaking with power instead of weakness, you will begin to feel a shift. Your body will feel lighter, your mind calmer, your heart freer. You will no longer see yourself as a victim of circumstances, but as a co-creator of your life. The negative inner critic that once dominated your thoughts will grow quieter, while a new, empowering voice will begin to rise. This voice will remind you of truths you may have forgotten, that you are capable, that you are worthy, and that you are never walking alone. And here is where the true awakening begins. Once you experience this transformation, you will realize that you are not chained to your old patterns. You can choose differently every single day. 3 days becomes 3 weeks, 3 weeks becomes 3 months, and soon your entire life begins to reflect the new language of your soul. You start to live with intention, guided not by fear, by faith. The way you talk to yourself will ripple outward into everything you do. It will shape how you approach challenges, how you love others, and how you handle setbacks. It will even shape the energy you radiate to the world. People will notice something different about you. A calmness, a confidence, a strength that doesn't come from outside achievements but from inner alignment. So let me leave you with this. Never underestimate the power of your own words. Your inner voice is either your prison or your wings. For too long, many of us have allowed it to keep us caged in fear. But today, you are invited to choose differently. Choose to speak with love. Choose to affirm your strength. Choose to talk to yourself like you would to someone you deeply care about. Because when you change your inner dialogue, you don't just change your thoughts, you change your life. And it all begins with 3 days. 3 days of speaking truth, hope, and strength into your soul. Start now and discover for yourself. The voice within you is the key to your destiny.